Hi, and welcome to another episode of Coding with Jess, where you get to pair program with me while I build a thing. Except for today, I have a real pair programmer pair with me in Jason Humphreys. And so today we're going to continue working on Spotify new releases, which you've already seen me, I think I'm about 6 hours in to working on that. And our goal is to take that from the whiteboard sketch all the way to release. And record every minute of the work that we're doing there. And so some of the work that we're doing today with Jason and I is related to that, but I think it'll be a little bit different. Jason, you want to just say hi and tell them a little bit about yourself?
Yeah. 30 seconds. So my name is Jason Humphreys. I currently work at First. Jess used to work at. I'm a product manager, and before that, I spent about 6 or 7 years doing engineering, from web to iOS to different things.
Gotcha. What's your favorite color?
Garnet. Because I went to the University of South Carolina. Gamecocks.
Gotcha. Yeah, I'm sure everyone knows who the Gamecocks are that's listening to this video. They're infamous the world over.
Yeah. Yeah.
All right.
USC, but not the California.
Right, exactly. The other USC, the real USC.
The real one.
All right. Well, I'm going to go ahead and start a Pomodoro, and actually, before I do that, I want to talk a little bit about what we're going to do, and then we'll start the Pomodoro and get to it. So like I said, today we're going to be doing something a little bit different than what you've been seeing here in the past. What you've been seeing so far, if you've watched any of the first 6 hours of footage of me doing this, has been me writing on the whiteboard and saying, hey, here's the thing that I want to exist, and then starting a Rails app and actually doing spiking into the APIs, and then getting the first version of it up and running on my box. So I haven't got this up and running on Heroku yet. You guys can't access it, unfortunately, yet. I've got it checked into a public GitHub repo, so you can go look at the code. But like I said, we're only about 6 hours in. But we're far enough along now that I know that this thing is going to be real. And we're going to get it out there and have actual people using it. We've kind of done the proof of concept work. It actually works. And I've done the integration with the Spotify OAuth. But whenever you're shipping a product, there's always the stuff that you have to do around the shipping of it to get it ready for production. We used to have at a consulting company I used to work for, we had like a production readiness checklist. And so what I want to do today is basically build a checklist, and it doesn't have to be any more complicated than that, of like what needs to be done and to like get the MVP out the door. And there's two functions to this work, right? Like one is to make sure that you don't miss stuff of like, oh shoot, I probably should have put database backups in place because now like if the server goes down, I lose everything, or just sort of like what are the like good hygiene things you want to do around releasing. The other thing is to make sure that you don't do too much, right? Yeah. So anytime you're building one of these, there's always the inclination like to add one more thing, and we want to be a little bit embarrassed when we release our first version, right? Like want to get something out there as soon as possible. So this will help us by listing out all that work. We can actually see really clearly that, oh, here, you know what, we forgot this thing, and also we don't actually need to do that in order to ship this software. We can go ahead and ship without that thing. And so that's another reason why I wanted to have Jason help me, is he's playing the role of a product manager right now at First, and he's been doing that for about 1.5 years. And so to help me think through what do we actually need for Spotify new releases in order to like get a first version out there and get people using it. So
yeah, it's also good just to have two pairs of eyes on it,
For sure.
That helps out tremendously, because sometimes you can think one way and someone's like, you don't really need that.
Yeah. That's what I love about MVPs, is like there's such an opportunity for creative problem solving around like, well, you could do that, or the easier way would be to just send an email to do that or something, like, oh wow, that just saved me 7 hours of development or something like that. So.
Yeah, and as being an engineer and now being more in the product role, sometimes when you're building it, you can get way too deep into it, and
totally.
You either have to come up for air and kind of take a high level view of what you're doing and what you're really trying to get out there and the value that you're supposed to add. And so that's another reason that it's good to have another person to look at it.
Another perspective. Plus, I think it'll be more interesting to hear both of us talking about this than it will be hearing me talk at you the whole time, which is kind of boring. So I'm going to stop talking at you now, and I'm going to just talk to Jason, and you guys are going to kind of be listening in, I think. So I think that's kind of how this is going to work. All right, here we go. So go ahead and hit start on our Pomodoro, and I think the first thing I need to do is actually show you what exists, because you don't actually know.
I've heard about it, but I haven't seen it.
Yep. So I talked a little bit with Jason. All he knows is basically like the idea of what I think needs to exist in the world. So here's our directory. I think I can just run Rails S, and that'll get things up and running. And I can't remember. It's been like almost 2 weeks since I worked on this, so I can't remember how much I've gotten working in terms of the OAuth flow, which is another reason why having a simple project management around this would be really helpful, because I actually can't remember all that I have done.
Right. Exactly.
All right, so here's Spotify new releases. When I click connect, I think this is going to let me go over to Spotify. Yeah, I'm already authed. So yeah, and one of the things I want to talk about for the MVP is the sort of authorization flow and what we need to build there. So right now I have it coming to this page where it says you're authed, but we could do something else. So this is real, like, in other words, let me show you what it would look like if I'm not logged in, because I think that actually is helpful. Go back here, go to Spotify, log out, and then click connect.
Gotcha.
And now I'm redirected over to Spotify, and I can grab my credentials.
It would be interesting, something to put on your checklist. I cannot log in with a username and password. I've only connected Facebook.
Yeah. There's and I actually had that problem as well at one point. All right, so let's just go ahead and start. Pull this stuff down, and we'll just call this the release checklist for now. So what were you saying about that? That I want to like let people know, remind them before they get to that screen?
Make sure that they can. It looks like it's already built in. There's a connect with Facebook button.
Yeah.
But if you had any
that screen we were looking at was Spotify's screen.
Right.
So I can't customize that screen, unfortunately.
Okay. Well, then it shouldn't be a problem.
Yeah, not a lot we can do, unfortunately. All right, so I am authed. Now if I click View My Releases, now this is super slow. Well, pretty slow. But yeah, these are actually, right now, it's only taking 20 of my hundreds of artists that I follow. The way I've written the code, like this is not, like I said, it's pulling back the data. This is like a proof of concept to show that I could pull back the data. So it takes 20 artists, and it takes any album by those 20 artists released in the last 12 months. And so you can see some of the people I follow and their releases. One thing that I was talking about in a previous episode is that right now, the way that people release stuff on Spotify, a lot of times they release singles, and they release multiple singles leading up to a full album release. That might be a helpful feature to be able to like toggle between, like, so you don't end up with just a feed that's overwhelmed with all of, like, say, Sleeping at Last, all their singles that they've released that are actually going to come out on a single album.
I think having that be a opt-in
or something,
or toggle, because it also could give you early indications that there's a new album coming out.
That's absolutely true. So yeah, you might want to see that. Like you can see Amos Lee released 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 singles before he dropped the full album. These are all 1 tracks, and then there's the 10-track My New Moon, and then there's the deluxe edition. I don't know. I guess you still do that. Like, it's weird to think about this. Like, these used to be physical CDs you picked up in a store.
I know.
And it's like, why do we still have deluxe editions? Right? Like,
because
who buys?
They want to sell more, make more money.
Yes, yeah. I guess that would have to be the answer if they're record executives.
Or their producers do.
Yeah.
So just to kind of take a step back,
this is all there is. By the way, you've now seen it all. That's everything.
So I come in and I connect with Spotify, and ultimately, the value that I want to get out of it is, out of the people that I follow within Spotify, show me a list of all of those artists, and then the albums that they've released.
So, kind of. My thought was more, and I'm going to switch over to our whiteboard so I can kind of sketch it out. My thought was, instead of a list of artists, that it's actually like a reverse chronological schedule. So, the thing I think would look something like this.
Okay.
Of, releases, some kind of heading, and then it says like this week. And then it's got, album, and the title of the album, whatever metadata we want to put about the album down there. And then it's like last week. Let me try to draw a little prettier. Just those two, and then 2 weeks ago, whatever. I don't know what our titles are going to be. Okay. But like each week, you've got here's what came out, and then you can scroll down this. I don't know, 3 months, 6 months, and so it's not by artist. It's by timeline. It's a release, and that's why I call it the release timeline.
Okay.
And each of the units on there is not an artist but an album.
Or a single.
Yeah. Right. Or a compilation. I think this is also an interesting thing we'll have to figure out how to deal with. Is this one right here? I noticed as we were glancing at this a second ago. Acoustic relaxations by various artists. So one of the artists I follow is one of the various artists, is one of the contributing artists on this album. So we may need to figure out how to pull that out or highlight, like, they're one of they contributed to this album.
Right,
anyway,
right.
we can think about how to do that. I think we can actually exclude compilations, so if we wanted to do that. But
okay, so I come to this, I just start my day, I open up Spotify, open up your program, and, oh, look, like, three of my favorite.
Sorry, so that people can see what we're pointing at. Here you go.
So basically, I'd be able to open this up, and I'm not really sure what I want to listen to, but I can see that three of my favorite artists have something released this week. So that's
and one thing I don't think this is MVP, but one thing we can implement because of their API is we can actually put a play button right here.
So you don't have to drill into anything.
Yeah, you can play from the album right there. Like when you hover over each album, you got a play button, and so they could use this as their their web player.
Yeah.
Because of the way that Spotify has built all that out, so that you can play from anywhere, kind of thing. So that's kind of cool.
Yeah, that is.
So my thought, honestly, what I think I ultimately want is really an email digest that goes out on Monday mornings of releases from the last week. That's what I want. I want this to be pushed to me, not me have to go remember to log in to go see it.
That's cool.
And so I think it's a both and. I think you do want the email and the web interface, and I think this should be post MVP. I think this is probably the very next feature that you add in after MVP. But I really want people to there's value in just once the web page is up, there's value there. I want that already.
Yeah. And I think this is a better way to have a playground and explore what can be done.
Exactly. And what kind of data comes back.
After you figure out what people really want, then you design the email.
And I did, let me see if I check those in. I think I did. Audio. No, not audio playlists. No, there we go. There we go. Sorry. Trying to figure out how to open that folder. So what I did do is grab some screenshots of Ardio's interface. So this was the interface that I'm absolutely replicating, stealing, ripping off. Ardio's dead now. I don't think they're going to mind. But yeah, they have new releases, and then they had a drop down for this week, last week. We can definitely do something like that as well. But here's another iteration of it with different artists, and you can see I even copied number of songs, that kind of stuff, and then let me see, there was a couple others. Audio. So this was the iPad version. I think this one is. I think this might be all releases, not just ones you follow. I think this is just the new releases section.
Yeah.
On iPad, and then this was one more that they had. So this was actually an older style. You can see I think this was the original one, and then they did a redesign about a year or two before they died, and they went to this. But they used to have these 3 buttons, which I think could work as well. We could just do this week, last week, 2 weeks ago.
Yeah, it makes sense.
My thought for the initial MVP is there's less to code if we just treat it as a list that scrolls backwards, and the nice thing is you could eventually add a a load more to the bottom here.
Yeah. And
then that allows you to keep going back if you want to keep going back, whereas I think in the audio version you can only go so far back.
Right. Sort of an aside.
Sure.
But I've always been a big podcast fan. And Spotify is obviously on a mission to become the world's #1 podcast destination. Yeah. So have you thought about, you could almost replicate it and have it be one for podcast and one for music.
Yeah.
Because honestly, when I go into the podcast part of Spotify, it's not ordered at all.
Yeah.
It's just like, here's all the stuff you like.
Right.
So if I could see, the 20-minute VC just released something yesterday, or Masters of Scale just released something 4 days ago, that would be phenomenal.
Well, certainly it's post MVP, and it's not. Yeah. But let's see. It's we got 15 minutes. Let's like just go play around for 4 or 5 minutes in the Spotify interface and see what we're and the API, because it's important. Can we get that information via API? Like, was a new podcast released? Because I have to do all this stuff through the API. Oh, apparently it should stop working.
Oh, sorry.
Done,
sorry, folks.
Actually, I'm gonna make this bigger so you guys can see what we're talking about here. Wow. Okay. Can
you refresh?
I did. Maybe it's up here. Command R was not refreshing, so let's try again. All right, let's just quit and reopen Spotify. Well, that was weird, man. Crash.
Are you hard plugged in?
Yeah. I have no idea why ScreenFlick just stopped recording. I started recording again. Sorry for the little snippet there. So yeah, it looks like podcast is literally broken on.
What about songs or?
Yeah, I mean everything else seems to be working. Just podcast is broken.
Let's see, that's weird.
That is crazy. Big companies have bugs, right? Do they have a web interface that we can go look at?
It's loading on.
Yeah, looks like there's.
Yeah, it's loading on my device.
Yeah. Open web player. Let me see if that'll do it. Nope, they don't. Oh, there they go. Podcasts. All right, cool. So top podcast. What's trending? Okay, so what we need to find out is, can you follow a podcast? You can save it to your library. What does that even mean? And then where does that go? Your library.
Yeah, you can.
Podcasts.
See following.
There we go. Yeah.
So at least you can on.
Okay, yeah. So here it is on mine. There's podcasts that I follow. So then the next question would be Spotify API podcasts. Their web API. I want the reference version. Brand new web reference in beta. Let me make this a little bigger for you guys. All right. So I've been playing with the albums thing. Oh, I'm pretty sure this doesn't work, and I'm pretty sure I know why. So what you have to do is get the following state for artists and users, and you can only check if a user, you can only get following. The only following you get back is artists. Yeah, right there. So they don't have. I don't think they have anything related to podcasts.
Okay. All right.
Yeah, there's not even searching. You can search the API. There's nothing related to podcasting here yet.
Okay.
So yeah, and it looks like you would have to have like a podcast API to be able to get the API and get the release and that kind of stuff. So unless it like counts as an album, which I doubt it does, we can look real. Yeah, I would imagine maybe like a type or something.
It's still kind of early days for Spotify and podcasts.
Yeah, no, I think it's a really interesting idea, but it doesn't look like it's yet supported. All right, cool. So limited to albums right now. That you can get. All right, so like I said, this is what we have so far, and we need to get this to the point where it's ready to go. So I have some stuff that I can just like brain dump down right away, which is we need to basically we just talked about having a release, like having them ordered by weeks. So it'd be like order or group albums by week. Would be one. And let's see.
Particularly in the display of it.
Yeah, exactly. So it'd be like, if we were to write it in user story format, it'd be like, as a user, I want to view my albums grouped by week of release.
Yeah.
And then some notes to take under here would be like, 3 months by default, show a specific number of albums by default, because I might actually have a lot. I mean, I have hundreds of followed artists.
Yeah.
And so it's possible that 3 months worth of releases would be,
Could be like,
100 albums
yeah,
maybe,
right.
or 150 albums. I don't know what would eventually like overwhelm it. Oh, one other thing is progressively, as a user, I want loading the page to feel better. So the right now we're just loading 20 artists and then loading. It's very inefficient right now. Like it's doing a ton of API calls, and they're each. I'm basically doing it like the least efficient way possible, like looping over each one, and then I wait until all of those API calls are done before I even start to generate the page, right? So we might want to like progressively render the page or something to make it feel better, or at least show some sort of loading state, like one of those empty states where you have like empty albums or whatever, and then they like populate something. Because right now the page takes
and it's
3-4 seconds,
yeah.
And when I'm actually loading all artists and albums, it's going to take a lot longer because it's like an n squared thing. When you load
right.
For each artist that you load, you end up loading 15 more albums or whatever.
I guess the good thing about that is since you're on the higher end, like that's the least efficient experience.
I am the power user. That's exactly right.
Mine will probably load in a second.
Yeah. Well, the other interesting thing that I haven't looked into, and I just don't know, is like how many people actually use the following feature in Spotify. Because if you haven't followed very many artists, this isn't going to be interesting to you. So if you just play music in Spotify and never collect artists.
Well, there's another follow-on. If you go into this and you have none, you have the ability to like search for artists. And if you went a step further, you could follow them using the Spotify API.
Yeah, you definitely could. Yeah, you could build this into a discovery interface. I think the obvious thing is as a user, I want an informative blank state.
Yeah.
When I have no followed artists and or releases. So if there's nothing that comes back, I need to know, here's how I follow an artist, and here's like that kind of stuff. We may want to have that anyway. As a user, I want a simple help page of how this works. So they can know, great, if you want to see more, just go into Spotify, here's the button you'd want to press, follow, and then come back here and we'll show you their new stuff as it comes out. I think we talked about like post MVP. I don't want to spend a bunch of time here because that could be all kinds of things, but I think as a user I want to get an email.
Yes.
A weekly digest email of releases. All right, we'll start out. I was going to say I will have their email address based on their OAuth sign in, so we will be able to do this. One of the questions I had was, as an MVP, do we want to send them like some kind of welcome email the first time that they auth?
Well,
that would be normal. You would normally do that with anything.
Yeah.
That
actually kind of
get back.
goes back to my question around Facebook login. I assume that Facebook, that I synced my email as well. But it's very possible to sync with Spotify and not share your email.
That's a great point.
Because that's an extended permission on Facebook's API.
Yeah. That is a really good open question.
So as a Facebook connected user, I want to use the product.
Yeah, I mean, we need to know.
Or I want to get the email.
Yeah, I guess there's a spike here of. Excuse me. Get an email. That syncs with or connects to Spotify. And then what you mentioned specifically was, what about users that have only used Facebook to connect to?
And didn't share email permission.
Well, it might be, yeah.
Because I do get emails from them. But I think it's because I went in and added my email.
Oh, okay.
I was tired of the portals that had their own custom interface and you had to put in username.
That makes sense. So that's interesting. One way we could work around that, if that's true, is we could have an interstitial screen that comes up, or even have it be here, of like a little alert or something like we don't know your email. Like you're not going to get the weekly email until you put your email address in here. I have a user object on the back end for when them once they connect. So if we don't get the email as part of the pushback from Spotify, I can still say I can.
You won't get this
you're not
extra
gonna get
bit
this,
of value if you
and then
don't
like
do this
simple
thing.
form where they can enter their email. Done. So yeah, they're not too bad to work around now that I think about it. They just won't get a name. I think it might be helpful to have. You know what? Never mind. I don't want to lump in emails as part of the MVP. I think getting this out here where you can just auth one time and see your album release list is valuable enough that it's worth getting out there.
I agree.
So I think this is sort of the initial features. Release timeline features. Probably we need some sort of like landing page as a user. A persuasive landing page, right? Because we're convincing them to like sync their Spotify account. So people might be freaked out about that. Syncing your Spotify, or that shows you what you get for syncing your Spotify account. Yeah, I think that's fine. I don't know if there's that much more there. And then the other big section that is what I was talking about at the very beginning, which is just sort of production readiness. So deploy to Heroku, set up staging. This is all stuff that you probably aren't even aware that's not done. So I'll just type out some stuff first. Set up staging in Heroku. Set up SSL.
You have a domain?
I don't have a domain. Buy a domain. There was a couple other things. Database backups, because there will be a database of users, and I'm gonna have to figure out caching. This I want the loading the page to feel better. Is actually potentially pretty complicated.
Yeah.
And the question is, should we be caching like the results of your list so that when you come back, it doesn't have to load everything from scratch all over again. So that it can be super fast.
Sounds like that would be caching on the server side.
Server-side caching, exactly. Yep. And so that would be setting up Redis and fragment caching or some sort of thing. Yeah, I don't know. Database backups. We're not doing a weekly email, so I don't need Redis yet. What other things?
As you've been building it out, have you handled any like errors, potential error states, error handling?
Definitely not. So yeah, as a user who fails, or as a user when I fail to authenticate with Spotify.
I think Spotify might handle that, but maybe not. I don't know.
Yeah, we should figure that out for sure. We want a helpful error message. I think that's the only place where there can be an error message. I know.
Because there's really no input.
As a user, when I click on an album, I want to be directed to the album in Spotify. You got to be able to go there quickly, and right now you can't.
So the idea is to send them back to the native app?
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Yeah. I think maybe open that in a new tab.
Mm-hmm.
The native or the web player.
Website.
Web player. Yeah. I think it's open the web player in the new tab.
It'd also be cool to
It would be cool.
detect if they were mobile and send it to the mobile app. But
yeah. Could we
I would start out with the web player. Because that's just mobile deep linking.
Yeah, that would be slick though. Huh. That'd be pretty awesome. Oh yeah, as a user, I want this to not look like crap on mobile. Because I haven't done any responsive stuff. All right, let's take a quick break.
Okay.
So like, if you can imagine, that is not that great. We could do better. Probably do 2-up on an iPhone.
Are you rolling your own views, or are you using Bootstrap?
Totally rolled my own right now. All right, let's take a quick break and then we'll come back to it. So yeah, that's.
Does it pause it?
Rolls. I let it roll, and then I should have showed you in the video. I accelerate, like I like make the entire Pomodoro takes like 5 seconds, so you get to watch it go.
Oh, okay.
It's kind of fun actually.
Yeah.
And it also gives me a chance to like take a break and walk away, because like doing that straight for 2 hours straight, doing it for an hour straight, it's exhausting.
Yeah.
So it's nice to have that 5 hour break. Is it
fun?
fun?
Yeah.
Yeah.
It really is. And it's exactly what I expected. Like all that stuff coming out, just like us bouncing off each other.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it'd be fun. I was thinking about getting Jeremy to pair with me on the getting it up in Heroku, setting up staging, production, and SSL. I thought that would be like a really fun pairing session if we would do that.
Are you choosing Roku just because it's less barriers to your listening to yours?
No. It's faster to get up and running.
Well, I mean,
over
if you
AWS
have Jeremy on your side.
Oh yeah,
you
why
could
not
probably
do AWS?
Shoot it to Kubernetes.
Yeah, but then I have to manage that. Yeah, no, I want something
Also
that I
for
know how to use.
more like beginner people, like that just makes it so much.
Yeah, it's like here's how you get it up in Heroku. It's $7 a month for a
You
dynamo.
would need like 6 extra classes or recording sessions. How to sign up for AWS. How to look at their horrible interface and not throw up.
Yeah, and that's one of the things I'm trying to emphasize in this is like you can build an entire product in a matter of hours, from whiteboard all the way to shipping the first version.
Yeah.
Like it doesn't have to take months. You really can do it quickly.
Yeah.
I mean, we're literally this was I think it was 6.5 hours of time spent on this.
You know what would be really cool, and you may already be doing this, but like a breakdown visualization of like time spent coding, time spent like baking, time spent whiteboarding,
That's a great idea. I'd love to do that. And what I think I'm going to do is break down the. I was thinking about how to make this more digestible because it's a lot of content. And I think I'm going to break every session into Pomodoros. Like each Pomodoro is its own video. That way it's like, look, it's just 25 minutes. And I mean, shoot, watch it in like 1.25 or 1.5x on YouTube, and it doesn't even take 25 minutes. You can watch it in 17 minutes and watch a Pomodoro. So like each episode becomes each Pomodoro, and then I'm going to do like very descriptive, like descriptions in YouTube, but like here's the things that are covered in this Pomodoro. Right? I was integrating with OAuth, or I was whiteboarding the UI, and then and then like try to give like a timeline within each Pomodoro where you can like some people do this on YouTube videos where they'll deep link into a specific time spot of like, and at minute 7:47 is when I ran into the bug in the Spotify gem, and here's how I dealt with it. So try to annotate more so that it gives you some transparency into it. But I think it'd be really cool to have like, I think I was gonna buy codingwithjess.com, and then you could actually have episodes and then like see all the videos and maybe like helpful descriptions. That way you have like sort of that timeline view of
Is that domain available?
yeah, it's available. Codingwithjess.com. I mean, it's just one more thing.
It's fun.
Yeah, I know.
Oh, you want to record it maybe?
Well, the other thing is, no, not necessarily. That's the setting of the platform, right? Like that's not Spotify new releases. I'll record the Spotify new releases.
Oh, right.
This is Coding with Jess, which is the other thing. I think the reason I didn't buy it then too is I wasn't convinced that this was valuable and that I wanted to keep doing it. But I've been having so much fun with it and like getting a lot of good feedback from people on it that I'm like, okay, figure this out somehow, one way or another. Because eventually, what I'd love to have is like, people like Patreon or something like that, and get people to pay $2 to $5 a month, and then give them extra content. So have what I push out to YouTube for free, and then have like extra videos and that kind of stuff that are available to like full subscribers.
Yeah. And not that you need it, but like also a really cool thing to have on your resume. It's not just something you built.
Yeah.
And you're also showing that you have a decent presence.
All right, we're back. Okay, so in that first Pomodoro, we made pretty good progress on getting through a checklist. I think we should definitely target being done with this checklist in this Pomodoro.
Okay.
Like I don't think we need a lot more than another 25 minutes on this.
Right.
Especially given like how small the MVP is going to be. Like it's going to be a single screen. There's not going to be anything you're going to be able to toggle. There's no view more, any of that kind of stuff. So let's just see if we can knock it all out now. And then the thing I want to talk to you about is whether it's worth turning this into like a Trello board or something like that, and just the overall like, and what value are we going to get out of that versus just leaving it in this document. And so yeah, let's talk about that once we get that list done. But that's the other thing I wanted to do in this Pomodoro. Was there anything else you thought might be helpful to cover beyond getting a checklist up, talking about project management software, if we want to do that or not?
No.
Okay.
No.
Well, if you think something will...
I have some ideas around if and why to set up the PM stuff, so
Cool.
when we get to that.
Look forward to talking about that. All right, as a user, I want to view my albums, want to load the page. Okay, I think, and I was going to type something in here and I forgot. I should have finished my thought and instead of just walking away. What was this? As a user, I want to be able to go directly to Spotify. When I fail to authenticate, a simple help page. I can't remember what this was. Okay, who knows? That's all right. Must not have been that important.
Yeah.
So under production readiness, we've got production and staging in Heroku. Oh, CI. I do have a test suite. Or actually, I don't think did I write any tests yet? I might not have, but I will, definitely. A lot of it has been spike code up to this point. I think the most important code to test is actually the logic around pulling back the albums and the artists and all that stuff. So
this might be up in the top section, but like, what's the go-to-market? How are you going to market it?
Thank you. That is what I really need to think about. Yes, because that is right, distribution. If you build it, they won't come.
Yeah,
right? We talked about this already once today.
Right.
So how are we going to get this out to people?
One of the great things about having it on YouTube is if you put in a good description and a good title, people are going to land on it.
Oh, that's so true. Yeah. Make sure to market the videos well.
This may be a little too much, but you could actually go into Google's Keyword Explorer and find stuff that aligns with what you're building.
For the YouTube video.
Yeah, if someone also wanted the question answered, how can I view my followers or my followings on Spotify?
Yeah.
You know, if you weave that in, you know.
Yeah. No, that's a great idea. Yeah, followed artists on Spotify. Yeah, that's a great idea. Huh. Let's see. So description, title, and yeah, we want titles and descriptions for all the videos on YouTube. And you're exactly right. People will land on that. What about Product Hunt?
Yeah, that's perfect.
Yeah,
I love that.
I think it'd be super cool.
Yeah.
Because we got to figure out how to like package the two things together, like the videos and the actual release. So like maybe the homepage, maybe the landing page actually has, as a user, I want to read about how Spotify new releases was made or something. Like maybe the second half of the landing page is, you can watch me build this, and here's a link to the GitHub repo, and here's a
and usually stuff you see on Product Hunt. This is a small thing, but it'd be easy to build. On the landing page, like have a UTM value where it's like, oh, welcome Product Hunt member.
UTM value. I'm not
like
sure.
the campaign value at the end of the URL.
Gotcha.
You know? So they know they're coming.
Oh, right. Detect whether someone is coming.
Because some services are like, you get 20% off if you put in PH.
Actually, let's put that down here with Product Hunt. Customize the homepage.
Yeah.
Product Hunt and customize the homepage. Let's come back to that one because I haven't done as much with Product Hunt. I'd love to look with you at like what would we need to do to launch on Product Hunt, because I feel like it's probably not like we'd have to do screenshots. I know we'd have to do a description. Like I'm trying to think of what's in the Product Hunt listing. So let's go look at that in a second. But how else could we? I mean, obviously a Twitter post.
A Twitter post, and also either on your Google or on your videos, getting people to comment, like you know, getting people that you've already enlisted to kind of look over this to
comments. I wonder how that impacts like.
I would think it would impact it.
I would think so too. people who have already watched Coding with Jess videos. I think a really cool. So this is more around like the Coding with Jess than YouTube or than the Spotify new releases. But a really cool thing could be like a 5-minute time lapse of me building the whole thing from start to finish.
that would be.
You have the entire video, and then I could do a clock up in the top right that like shows like hours elapsed.
Yeah.
And like then just name the video however many hours it takes me to get to like the MVP release.
Right.
I should be like 13.6 hours from whiteboard to MVP release or to first release or something like that, and just have that all in 5-minute time lapse. Like 5-minute time lapse video of the entire build process from whiteboard to release. Interesting idea.
Thinking of like places where music.
Do I need a Twitter account? Right. Like, do I need to set one up for Spotify releases, or should I just use my personal?
I'd use your personal one.
Personal for now.
Yeah. Because it's a very personal. I mean, at least Coding with Jess.
Well, Coding with Jess. Think about Spotify new releases though. Like, there are people who are going to use this who aren't going to care a jot about the fact that I recorded the whole thing. Right. So this would be.
Well, yeah. If you're going to use Twitter to promote it, I would grab your own account.
Okay. Yeah, this is promoting Spotify new releases, which maybe this thing needs a better name too than Spotify new releases or release timeline or whatever that I've been calling it. Release timeline. I can't even remember my name.
Production readiness. Come up with it.
Yeah, I think so. Come up with a name.
I was just thinking like.
Oh, I know what one of the things. Sorry, that's up here that I've forgotten about, and I want this to be a future pairing session too. Is as a user, I want the album list to look pretty. I want to pair with Andy Hamilton on making it look awesome.
Yeah.
Responsive. That's what it was. It was responsive.
Oh, right.
That was
I
it.
wanted to look good on mobile.
Yeah. I think I have release timeline was what I was calling it. One thing I'll note to look good on mobile.
Polished UI.
Thank you. Gosh, sometimes I get stuck with words. One thing I wanted to note is like as you're writing these user stories, and this is something you know, but other people may not, it is important to use consistent language throughout the user stories. So, all right, guys, sorry we lost another 30 seconds or something in there from ScreenFlick being mean to me. So I'm definitely going to be. I definitely do not recommend you buy ScreenFlick, and I'm going to go find some competing screen recording software out there as soon as I can. But anyway, frustrating. So what I was talking about was using a consistent language here. And sometimes what I'll do before I even get started is actually
define them.
Have a terminology section up at the top. Is like, hey, terminology. And the things you're going to see in here are user. And a user is X. And release timeline. And a release timeline is that. And most people know what a spike is. But I wouldn't put that in the terminology section because I would expect my team to know what that is. But yeah, luckily there's not a whole lot of jargon here. But when you have, I think one of the places where this is most useful is when you have several distinct pages or experiences in the app that you have a common name that's shared and understood, what that page is called, and you always call it the same thing.
Right.
And then the other place this is incredibly useful is if you have more than one kind of user, like if you have an admin user and a customer and a broker, or there's different user roles, defining what those roles are, and then using that same role name over and over. But I don't think it's that important for this one. But just good
to know.
Okay, so come up with a better name.
Something else I was thinking of was like going to where music lovers hang out.
Yeah. Oh.
Or. You don't want to like buy ads for this.
No.
If you did, target like Pandora's or other,
Totally. No, it's the Spotify. What is it called? Not bulletin board. But they have a help site where customers can ask questions. Let me see. So like my favorite one is 10,000 song limit on Spotify, which bugs the crap out of me.
Which I didn't even know existed.
Oh, I've been over 10,000 songs. I was over 10,000 songs in the first week that I used Spotify because I was important. So community, Spotify.com. So this is something that people have been asking for a while, and that Spotify refuses to do. But this is their Spotify community site, and so I could go literally search for release timeline, and there were a couple of different posts here. Let me see if I can find one of them real quickly. There it is. New release section for followed artists. Please add this. So just go
and you just
look.
be like, here it is.
I'm guessing that they're not going to add it. It's been since 2014.
Oh, Swarm. That was the old phenomenal podcast app that Apple bought and threw in the garbage.
That's how long people have been looking at this, right?
I know.
Like this is old stuff, and it has not been done. And there's just things that look, 1,800 votes on this, and
another, like there's a good title right there.
yeah, what
Something
people are
you can
searching
weave
for.
into things that are
SEO.
searchable.
So Spotify community post on relevant topics, and there's one of them. Yeah, so it's funny. This definitely is 2017. This idea received quite a few votes in the last year, so I wanted to update you all again.
Status is still not right.
Not
now.
right now. It's currently fulfilled by our crappy Release Radar playlist, where we show you 25 random songs from random artists that you follow, and we update it on some weird schedule that no one knows.
Do you think that it's not lack of resources? Do you think it's the IKEA thing, where 60% of the things that are bought at IKEA, the people didn't intend on buying? That's a real stat.
Oh no, I didn't know that. No, I think so. Spotify's their strategic purpose is very different than appeasing the. So this kind of feature only appeals probably to like 1% or less of their user base. Just like the 10,000 song limit only applies to 1%. Guess what? I'm in the 1%. Yay. And I think they actually look in their database, and it like applies to like 0.1%.
Yeah, and I'm sure it's
ridiculous
also
thing.
in their financial model because they pay so much money and royalties to the producers and studios.
Yeah, I guess so. Yeah, it probably costs them more money than the average user because they end up paying out more. I don't know, more royalties. So I think that's what this is. This is something that for most people, this little playlist where you can go and go to home and click Release Radar.
That wasn't easy to find.
Yeah, if you know where it is, you can find it. It gives you 34 songs to go look at random. This is good enough for most people. Not good enough for me, but updates every Friday, gives you 34 random songs from people you follow. I think this never miss a new release is probably an overstatement. Catch all the latest music from artists you follow.
Yeah.
No.
Sure.
Anyway, so I think that's what's going on there.
Okay.
So get a market plan, come up with a name, make sure we have the videos, and I might want to actually
Editing.
separate. Editing's going to take me some time. That's actually what I was going to say. Is like this is really coding with Jess stuff, which is great. I think I want to launch the product hunt stuff around without any of the coding with Jess stuff done.
Yeah.
Right? Because people that are watching the coding with Jess may not even have Spotify accounts, right? Like, I want people to care about that separately. I think this could be interesting, just of like, hey, here's how it actually came together. And then this, we definitely want. The Spotify community does not care to watch me code Ruby, but they care about this. And then the Google Keyword Viewer really is its own idea.
Yeah, and it's also more around like what do you set as the description, the title.
Well, description and title on the page, right? Like the Spotify new release.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But YouTube being a big part of Google, I'm sure they weight a lot of that content pretty heavily.
Yeah. Load up my. Okay, so we've got a name, a domain. I'll put this down here. Launching it on Product Hunt feels like a great launch spot. So maybe we should go dig into that now. How much time do we have? 9 minutes.
I think that's a pretty good go-to-market plan.
Yeah, that will be at least get some initial attention and see what happens.
Yeah.
All right, let's go to Product Hunt real quick and then see what it would take to launch something there. All right, I know that I have an account. I think it's with Twitter.
Have you ever looked at Makers? It's this thing where they try and get people to, like, each week say what they're planning on doing this week.
Huh.
It's kind of weird, but
that is interesting.
it's worth looking into at some point.
Okay.
But
all right, and then let me make this a little bigger so people can see. All right, so I think I'd hit this plus, post a product, URL. Okay, so we're gonna need a URL. Let's just do this for now. All right, cool. Just to get past it a little.
There was a thing that said you can schedule it for another time.
I did see that. That was cool. So download link, thumbnail, status, and then images. Base timeline. I actually have that on here, I think. Oh, wow. Thank you. Oh. There we go. Music. Something. That's fine for now. Have an image.
Probably want some sort of a logo.
Yeah, that's a good point.
For you launch.
Great point. And logo. I can work on that with Andy when we pair on that. Thumb node, make it look professional. Let me see if I can just get something to get past there to their next page. Fluid icons. Here, have a first desktop icon. Alright, images. This product is not available yet. Next. Alright, so 1, 2, 3. Ooh, YouTube video optional. That's where I can post the 5-minute. Yes, I worked on this product. Alright, cool. So we'll need let's go back to that last page. I need a tagline, topics, thumbnail, which was 240 by 240. I need to look and see if that thumbnail, it probably is the just straight up logo. Oops. It probably should be the logo. As opposed to like a miniaturized screenshot or anything like that.
Yeah.
Next, images. And then I'll want 3 1270 by 760 images. YouTube video. Maybe. I might not want to do the time lapse. I want to just show it off.
For that one, you don't want to do time lapse.
You're right. Description, max 260 characters, and oh man,
you just need to put some garbage in here, probably.
Probably the image too, though. Let's see. So I think I can do desktop. How to Trello GIFs. Upload image. Upload image. There we go. We're like, I think he's building Trello. Optional, required. Alright, cool. Makers. Oh, okay, cool. And then a comment from me about the product.
Yeah.
And how long can that product be? Oh, it doesn't look like it has a limit.
A lot of times when I view stuff, it's very, very, very long.
Yeah. I think that's where they put most of their stuff, right? Because the description is 260 characters. Like, that's not much at all.
No. And then that's what people respond to, and you respond to them.
And then I probably want to have a list of people that I email asking them to comment.
Mm-hmm.
Like, I want to proactively,
Yeah.
like, seed this with, like, people that I know that would, okay, so an email list of people to not hunt, but to upvote for me. Okay, I'll put together that list another time. All right, so we said we wanted to talk about product management stuff. So we've got 3.5 minutes. So give me your pitch. Should I throw this all in Trello or should I run it out of a doc?
So I think that because you're doing this as a sort of a lecture format, it's good to at least show that. Since you're building it by yourself, you really don't need like a PM tool, but I think getting it in there and like going through it might be something that a lot of people haven't done before.
Yeah.
Especially haven't personally done. Maybe they've had their PM do it,
right,
and they just like work through it. But I don't think you need something really heavy-handed. So I think a Trello would probably be good.
No, I think that's a great idea.
Because Trello has sort of it doesn't have the kind of hierarchy that a Jira has, and like in progress, completed, but it lends itself to that, so that you can always keep yourself accountable of what's the most important thing to work on. You know, like if you find yourself going down a rabbit hole, you can kind of come up for air and say, is this the most valuable thing to work on?
So the other nice thing about Trello is that I can make that board public. And so I can actually, whereas this I can't, right? Like this is in Bear, you can't share Bear stuff publicly, but I can make that public so that, you know, the GitHub repo is public, the Trello board under which it's developed is public, so people could go like poke in and look around at that kind of stuff. So I think it would give more transparency to people in the build process of like, oh, here's where we are. And eventually I could use that for feature requests too, right? Like Trello has voting. Yeah, so we could have a column over there of like, what features do you want to so yeah, I'm with you. And Trello, like, honestly, it's just not that much heavier than what we're already doing, like posting and pasting everything in here.
Oh, right. Yeah. But this doesn't have the hierarchy that I was talking about, right? I mean, it could, you could format it like that, but Trello has like, you know, different in progress, to do, and then you can rank them based on priority, so that you don't go up too far off in one direction when the most important thing is the other direction.
All right, let's do this. Let's create a public board. Yes, make board public, and we'll call it Spotify release. I think new releases was the name. All right, and there's some weird. I can grab this, paste it there. Cool. Man, I love Trello. A new Trello board feels so good. Okay.
Clean slate.
It does. All right, so
45 seconds.
Yeah. So one thing you can do here is paste all this stuff in, and do I have? Yes, I do. We'll delete this. So one of the cool things I like about Trello, turn off road wrap, and I think is we can take all of these and paste them into a single card. Oh, this is the list to do. Card, paste them in here, and hit add card, and it creates.
Oh, that's cool.
Boom!
That's cool.
So I love that. We only have 4 seconds left, so we can do load up the Trello board the rest of the time. But dude, thanks so much for jumping in on this.
Yeah, this has been fun.
Tell me, like, give me your feedback in terms of like a quick mini retro. Like, what did we do well? Where did we spend too much time? What should we maybe get focused on? What?
I think we spent a decent amount of time like kind of going off on sort of side conversations, even though they did pertain. So I don't know whether you're trying to optimize for like including more like coding and build time versus like kind of just talking about what we're doing, but that kind of took away from some of the build time.
Sure.
But it's really important, especially when you're trying to talk about like more product level, product management kind of stuff, to have those conversations.
Well, I mean that's a great point, Jason, and I think the the counterpoint would be, right, that maybe we did spend 5-10 minutes talking about some of these things. Should we do it? Should we not do it? But what we were talking about, each of the things that we were talking about, whether we should or shouldn't do it, was hours of work. So we spent maybe 5 minutes talking about whether, do we want to spend these 8 hours on this feature, or these 4 hours on this feature, or yes or no.
Right.
And so I think that those 2 to 3, 4, 5 minutes, even a 10-minute diversion can be really useful if you're talking about changing the scope by several hours or not. So.
Yeah, if it can save you a lot of time down the road.
Yeah,
absolutely, that's a good point.
Yeah, no, this was just anything else on your feedback on jump into mine.
You could wear a costume next time. Maybe like the
oh
horse,
my gosh,
the horse head.
Oh my gosh.
As maybe some bonus paid content, right?
Yeah. It might happen. I might make this happen. It might make it more interesting to listen to me if you had to look at something better than.
And just act like nothing is different.
Nothing is
like,
no.
And so next,
I'm wearing a pink unicorn costume. It's what? This is what I wear. It's Tuesday. What do you know?
Yeah.
So a couple things on one. It was super helpful. You're exactly right. Like having a second set of eyes. This process is so much more fun. I actually just did this process for a friend on a consulting gig where I went through and defined the MVP, and it was really hard to do it without another person to talk through. Like, you get lost in your head sometimes. You deep dive on something, and you're like, whoa, like, did I waste time on that? Like, I spent 2 hours like fleshing this thing out, and then I decided that that's post MVP, and so it's not even anything I'm going to build. And so this was way better to do with another person. I really enjoyed it. One thing that was really helpful, I appreciate you brought out the GTM plan, and I think that I had these 3 sections in my head kind of coming in today of like, I want to make sure that we get the features nailed, and then we need some sort of landing page, and then production readiness stuff. But yeah, that was really helpful to walk through, and I think just having a plan about how am I going to ship it and get it out there, especially the product hunt piece.
Yeah, that was fun looking into that. Really, I never looked at that before. One
really
thing
exciting.
that just came to my mind was for production readiness, having just some simple tracking analytics.
Oh, thank you.
Like that.
Yes, absolutely. What would you recommend? Mixpanel, segment to a Redshift database?
I would use. I would definitely use segment.
Okay,
segment, because with segment you can try all of them.
Gotcha. Just so set up like a free
segment Google Analytics.
I think so.
Yeah.
Or Mixpanel Google Analytics or segment Google
Both.
Analytics. Okay, yeah.
With segment, but
Yeah, and I think you can have does Mixpanel have a free plan nowadays?
Yeah.
Okay,
yeah,
cool.
they do.
Okay, cool.
But
I might just turn both of them on and see what happens. No, that's a great point. Definitely want usage analytics. Oh man, I realized what we should have talked about, and we'll have to save it for another session. But one thing it's super important with any release or MVP or like feature release, product release is like, what's your goal? What are you trying to accomplish? How do you know that you've won? That kind of stuff. So I think I know that we're past our time. We're not in our Pomodoro or whatever. Like, we're gonna shut it down. But my thought is, and we can explore this another time. It's a returning user. It's someone who comes back to the timeline again more than like a day later. I think if you indicate any kind of like, I got some value out of this. I signed up one time. Great, whatever. But if they come back more than 24 hours later, like they remembered it and came back to it, I think it's a good sign that we built something valuable, right? Because we're not emailing them yet. We're not doing anything to like bring them back in. It's a pretty lightweight product. There's not a whole lot to it. But if people are coming back, that's a really, really good sign. So anyway.
Or if people are sharing it.
Shares could be another for sure.
It'd be hard to track that, but yeah.
I mean, a lot of this stuff will be anecdotal. That's the way it is early in the product, right? It's like, okay.
And another interesting thing that you can do that's very much like MVP related, sort of, it might be a little MVP/V1, is you can kind of do like a timeline, like we've done before, where it's like, okay, here's today, and here's the first milestone we want to get to, and let's backtrack from there to see, what's a reasonable timeline to get there.
Gotcha.
And then what's milestone 2 and so on.
Yeah,
that's going a little beyond MVP.
Yeah. No, this is super, super helpful. So yeah, Jason, thanks for being here and Spotify new releases. I mean, I'll let you know when this video goes live so you can go listen to yourself talk, which I know is one of your favorite things in the world. All right. right, thanks guys. This has been another episode of Coding with Jess, and hopefully we're only a few hours from getting this thing live. That's what I really want to do.
There
All
you
right.
go.
See you guys. Bye.
See ya.